Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Secretary of State for the FCDO if she'll make a statement on Ukraine with particular reference to the use of rape as a weapon of war.
Mr. Speaker, on the 24th of February, Russia launched a premeditated and wholly unprovoked invasion into Ukraine. Since then, we have been horrified by reports of rape and sexual violence committed by Russian armed forces in Ukraine. We have been clear that Russia's barbaric acts must be investigated and those responsible held to account. Let us be clear, Mr. Speaker, indiscriminate attacks against innocent civilians amount to war crimes for which the Putin regime must be held accountable. That is why the government worked with partners to refer the situation in Ukraine to the International Criminal Court, to establish a commission of inquiry through the UN Human Rights Council, and with the support of Ukraine, to establish an OSCE mission of experts. We brought allies together to expedite an ICC investigation into the situation of Ukraine through state party referral, with 37 countries joining the UK. This was the largest referral in the history of the ICC. Mr. Speaker, the international community is isolating Putin on the world stage. It's vital that the ICC is able to carry out that investigation, and that is why the UK will provide military, policing and financial support to help uncover evidence of such crimes and ultimately seek justice. On the 24th of March, we also announced an additional £1 million in funding for the ICC to help uncover evidence of war crimes, and we're providing UK experts to support the investigation. Mr. Speaker, sadly, rape in war is not new. And before the war started in Ukraine, the Foreign Secretary committed the UK to doing more to tackle sexual violence in conflict, including, but not limited to, its use as a method of warfare. We're working with countries and international partners to strengthen the international response. All options are on the table, including a new international convention that would help to hold perpetrators to account. Mr. Speaker, the UK continues to act decisively with its allies to punish the Putin regime for its unprovoked aggression against Ukraine, and we will do all we can to bring the perpetrators of war crimes, including sexual violence, to justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a tragic reality that in conflicts and crises around the world, rape and sexual violence have become weapons of war. They are the tools of the vicious and violent, and the consequences have such a long and far-reaching impact on the individuals, their families, their communities. And it's happening in Tigray, it's happening in Myanmar, it's happening in Iraq, and now it's happening in Ukraine. And since the start of the conflict in Ukraine, there have been widespread reports of Russian troops resorting to rape and sexual violence against women and girls. And just 2 weeks ago, this House and the Prime Minister welcomed 4 Ukrainian members of Parliament to Westminster and to Number 10, and they highlighted the fact that Putin, and I quote, has changed his strategy to target the most vulnerable groups of women and children. They went on to report that women were being raped and executed, and those who weren't executed were killing themselves. Mr. Speaker, I chair the all-party parliamentary group on preventing sexual violence in conflict, as well as the Conservative Friends of International Development. The UK's action and leadership on this subject matters, and it has proven to be world-leading. However, we have to have somewhat more steps taken now in relation to Ukraine. Yesterday, the Honourable Member for Rotherham raised this issue in the Liaison Committee and asked the Prime Minister whether we had deployed our PSVI team to support survivors and victims of sexual violence into Ukraine or into the surrounding areas. The Prime Minister said we had. Can the Minister please confirm and provide the details to the House of how many we have supplied to the area and whether or not we will provide more? Secondly, it's particularly welcome to see the appointment of Sir Howard Morrison QC as the independent advisor to the Ukrainian prosecutor. Can the Minister confirm that all crimes of sexual violence will be documented and prosecuted, and where this will take place? Many of us who have been supportive of the Preventing Sexual Violence in Conflict initiative have been calling for a new independent international body to investigate sexual violence in conflict wherever it takes place, a body that will support survivors, document crimes and prosecute perpetrators working with local courts. Will the Minister now accept that that is needed now, not in 6 months, not in 12 months, but now with our global leadership and our determination? Finally, Mr. Speaker, PSVI and gender-based violence needs a long-term strategy with full and transparent funding formulas. Ukraine is unfortunately, as I've already said, on a long list of countries where rape and gender-based violence is perpetrated without fear of justice. We must end the culture of impunity, and the government must act now on behalf of the people of Ukraine.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the honourable member for this question and for his pointing out the incredible importance of our work on preventing sexual violence and conflict. And indeed, the UK is a world leader on this issue. The UK has committed over £50 million since the launch of the PSVI in 2012. We funded more than 85 projects in 29 countries to respond to conflict-related sexual violence. We've trained 17,000 police and military personnel and deployed UK experts over 90 times since 2012. That's helped to build the capacity of the UN and NGOs in countries such as Ethiopia, Mali, Bangladesh, Zimbabwe and Uganda. It's incredibly important that women who have suffered, especially, it can be men as well as women, but those who have suffered sexual violence are supported. We have put considerable funding, as the honourable members know, into the humanitarian situation in both Ukraine and neighbouring countries. We are supporting internal efforts to investigate violation of human rights and international humanitarian law in Ukraine, including the ICC investigation, as I've said. On the 4th of March, the Metropolitan Police operationalised their War Crimes Division. That is helping to collect evidence from those who've come to the UK, and that will support the ICC. Our energy and assistance and resources are targeted on supporting the work of the ICC on war crimes, rather than trying to build a new tribunal, because that could take many years. But other countries are doing similar things to the Met Police's operations.